What's up, good people? Welcome into Montgomery Co. I'm Renee Montgomery, and this week we discuss trending topics, what's hot, what's not. Michael B. Jordan's viral clip from the premiere here in the A. Of course, it happened in the A. And are you allowed to complain if you make a certain amount of money? Something to think on. We're going to discuss that later with the crew. So last week, I had an eventful week. I almost always have an eventful week, so I'm going to start talking to y'all about it from time to time. So last week, I was in New York for half of the week, as you guys might have seen on the last podcast video, and I can confirm that Pink is still a legit rock star. There was paparazzi everywhere. Then last Thursday, I flew home to Atlanta, and Serena and I attended the Creed 3 premiere at Atlantic Station. It was a great movie. I was sitting in front of the Brat. The mayor was at one row ahead of me. I believe Big Tigger was 2 rows ahead of me. The whole lead cast of Creed was there. They talked to us right quick. But a clip of Michael B. Jordan from the red carpet went viral, and we're going to discuss later with the crew. I start to see that you get out what you put in, and that's for athletes. We know this. We know that how much ever work you put in the gym is going to show in the game, but we don't normally equate it to entertainers, rappers, artists, but Michael B. Jordan right now, he is putting in that work, and he's been promoting this film a lot. We already know it's going to go number 1. He's acting in it, directing it. It's his first time directing it, so I can't wait till the box office numbers come back to show and prove that it was worth it, because I think it is. Now, back to my week. On Friday, we went to the Hawks game because it was community game night. Shouts to State Farm and Jake and all of those folks over there. But the Hawks have some momentum now, and I'm going to talk more in my sports section about what's going on with the Hawks, the state of the coaching situation, all of that jazz. Now, on Monday, I was back to the metaverse, y'all. Me and Richard Jefferson pulled up to Web3 to call the Celtics vs. Knicks game on an alternate style broadcast, which is basically a more conversational style broadcast that you guys have been seeing. Think Manning Cast, Pat McAfee Show, all of those guys. They're more alternate broadcast style. And it's still a little bit wild to me also that people watch NBA games in the metaverse. That's what's up. Shouts to the people that holla at us over there. And I'm not done with my eventful week, though. This past Tuesday, I flew back to New York. Shouts to my WME fam. Linked up with them, man. Every week is a little bit like that. And it's been a pretty eventful week on the sports side as well, and I'm about to get into it. Now, I said we was going to talk about it. Back to the Hawks. Atlanta has a new head coach in Quinn Snyder, and it started to have a lot of questions that was asked about the Atlanta Hawks squad as a whole. Charles Barkley made the statement on First Take that he said, "The shot clock is on Trae Young now. We gave you $200+ million. We fired 2 coaches. The shot clock is on you." Now, we know that Quinn Snyder has already talked to the whole squad, and Landry Fields made the statement from our first conversation. It was clear that Quinn had all the characteristics we were looking for in our next head coach. He has both an incredible basketball and emotional IQ, and we share the same core values and basketball philosophies of having honest communication and collaboration with players, tremendous attention to detail, and placing a great emphasis on player development. Now, Landry Fields is the GM for the Atlanta Hawks, so he's said all the right things, and Quinn Snyder has said all the right things. As he said, and quote, "I am thrilled to go back to Atlanta as the next head coach of the Hawks. Landry has a tremendous reputation as an incredibly bright, high character, high quality individual, and it was quickly evident that we share the same passion and commitment," and he goes on to talk more and more about it. So we know that it's good vibes right now coming in with a new head coach in Quinn Snyder. We know his history. He made the playoffs 6 out of the last 8 years that when he was coaching. So we know that he has the resume. We actually even know that we have talent on the Atlanta Hawks squad. I think that you can't deny Trae Young, DeJounte, all of them, Clint Capella, John Collins. We even see the young Bucks is showing up and showing out. So the question for the Hawks starts to become, well, what is the problem? Why do we stay in this middle space? Because at a certain point in the season, we were literally mid everything. The same amount of wins, the same amount of losses, the same amount of points given up, the same amount of points scored. In every statistical category, we were literally in the middle. And so the question becomes, how do we get over that hump? Why haven't we gotten over that hump? And a lot of people have started to ask the questions about Trae, a la Charles Barkley, saying Trae is now on the shot clock. So for me, I think that there's only 20-something games left in this last part of the season. So you're going to see either what happened with the Hawks a couple years ago where they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, went on an incredible run when Coach Nate McMillan had just been hired, made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then there was this promise and this hope of, okay, that's where you're going to start out the next year and take a step from there and move on, but we just haven't seen that. I don't know if we'll be able to tell in these first 20 games. As we've seen with different teams, it's not going to work out right away. You see Dallas Mavs trying to figure it out with Kyrie and Luka. You're going to see the Phoenix Suns try to figure it out, adding KD into the bunch. You see all kinds of movement with the trade deadline, so it's not going to instantly work right away. But the question is going to start to become here with the Atlanta Hawks is, when is it going to work? And are the players that are here, are they the ones to make it work? Because right now, the third coach in I don't know how many years, not a lot of years, it's going to start getting looked inward. And I've been on teams like that where as a player, you know that once somebody loses their job, once it's like somebody actually gets fired, everyone starts to look at themselves and be like, well, I don't want to be the weakest link, or I don't want to be the next one, or I don't want to be this and that. So you can assume that that's going on with the Hawks right now. I don't know if these next 20 games, my point is that I don't know if these next 20 games are going to determine that or not. This seems like things that are going to have to get figured out over after the offseason or different things of that nature. But questions are going to keep arising if we continue to stay mid with a little bit above mid talent, because I'm not going to say that we have one of those super teams or one of the teams that have, 3 huge all-stars in the league's perspective. We didn't have an all-star this year at all. So I don't necessarily know if we're putting too much pressure on the Hawks as well, knowing that we had no all-stars in the all-star game this year, yet there's a lot of concerns going on. So that's a lot to say that we will have to wait and see. But now we know that going through 2 coaches, Coach Lloyd Pierce, Coach Nate McMillan, and now we're on to Quinn Snyder, the questions are going to start being for the players. But as y'all already know, I say it all the time, the hashtag is true. It says true to Atlanta. So for better or for worse, it's like this ring on my finger. For better or for worse, I'm rolling with the Hawks. I'm rolling with the Falcons. Y'all already know I'm all the way bleeding with the Dream. And I'm rolling with United as well. So forever ATL, man. Y'all already know. Let's get into it, family. We got a lot to discuss. We're going to be discussing trending topics from last weekend. We had a few awards shows, the NAACP and the SAG Awards. So first off, what were your favorite moments, favorite looks? Because for me, I loved Angela Bassett did the thing. Okay, so if you guys don't know what that's from, I'm telling you right now, Ariana DeBose did a rap skit at the BAFTA Awards in London that sent the internet into a frenzy. It went so viral in a not good way that she even deactivated her Twitter account. Now, fast forward to the NAACP Awards, and Angela Bassett wins Entertainer of the Year, walks on the stage, holds up her trophy, and said, well, I guess Angela Bassett did the thing. I'm telling you, that was my favorite moment. I love that she made light of it. She even said she checked on Ariana DeBose to make sure she's okay after she deactivated her account. But you just love to see it because we always got the jokes, and that was just one of them. But what was y'all's favorite moments, favorite looks?
Well, I'll just go ahead and kick it off real quick because mine's real quick. First of all, I love Queen Latifah as the host, with the most because, it's always good for us to have representation, but for us to have our gender representation, that says a whole lot. And she really got me when she stepped out there in that black and white, because that's my favorite color combination. And she showed her versatility by singing that show tune, right off the bat. So I love that. I love Angela Bassett, and I'm so happy that she received over-the-top awards because she's overdue for them. And one of my favorite shows is 911.
Facts. And Snook be scheduling with her friends to watch 911 together. I don't know why that blows my mind. I was like, How to Get Away with Murder. I saw people did that too, watch parties, but 911, apparently the folks is out here waiting on them new episodes.
My favorite of the week was Zendaya. I couldn't believe when they said Zendaya at first, I literally told Renee, I said, I want to see if Zendaya is actually actually going to be there. Better not be no video, but because I don't want it to get my hopes up like this, because I love Zendaya, by the way. And when I saw that she was actually there, I got so happy, not only because I love her, but she hasn't been on no other red carpets. She missed out on the Golden Globes. I think there was another one that she missed. I think it was the Emmys or something. But she hasn't been on the red carpet in a little while. And so when I think she made a statement by coming out correct. By the way, her dress was amazing. It was gorgeous for the NAACP Awards. Yes, it was. She's amazing. I just love her, and I love that she decided to go back to the red carpet at the NAACP Awards, and of course at the SAG Awards she killed it as well. I love her. She's my favorite of the week.
I thought best looks was Zendaya. I just liked that her dress was so different. I also want to say the other person who I thought I loved their outfit was Angela Bassett. I thought she looked so classy. She looked so fresh. Her face, her hair. So those are my two popping moments. I thought I loved what they had on. I would wear it. So I like stuff that I would wear. I would wear that.
I love how many channels were showing it too. Like when I was going through the listings, I was like, oh, well, let me see what channel it comes on. It was on CBS. It was on BT. It was on CMT. It was on all the channels. I was like, wow, I love how basically you can watch it. You could not have missed it because it was on in almost every other channel. I loved everything that was happening because for the past 2 years, they haven't actually had a live studio audience. I think they've been doing it virtually. So it was nice. It was nice to see them going back to the whole production again.
Definitely. And then also shouts BG and her wife, Sherelle Griner, came out there and everybody gave them a standing ovation. So just all around good vibes at the NAACP Image Awards. And okay, so moving on, Michael B. Jordan. MBJ has been everywhere. Creed 3 comes out tomorrow, and there's a viral video with MBJ and one of the hosts from The Morning Hustle. And basically the backstory is both of them went to school together. And at the time they went to school, she basically had called him corny. Maybe there was a little bullying there. And MBJ now is the star, the director of Creed 3, and she's interviewing him on the red carpet.
On the Hustle Show, we got Michael B. Jordan, the director and the star of Creed 3. And, we know each other. We go way back all the way to Chad Science in Newark, okay?
Oh, the corny kid, right?
No.
So my question is, if you guys were MBJ, what would you do in that situation where that you remember how she was? I'm just going to say, what would y'all do in this situation?
She should have never correlated her with him in high school. She should have just done her interview. She was trying to get some clout. She should have just left it alone because he handled that perfectly. He let it be known, and it wasn't a little bullying. You could tell he was still salty.
He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm the corny one, huh?"
I think it was good of him. I think he still was the bigger person in that. You always have to try to be the bigger person. Like, look where he is now, look where she is. So there's no need to go any further with that.
So you saying you wouldn't have rubbed it in, Snooker Booker?
Just a tip, but then I would have went on and tried to lift her up. By doing so, I would have lifted myself up. So.
Oh, wow. Snook said when they take the high road, so when they go low, we go high. Cole, what was that saying you said when they go low?
When they go low, we go to hell.
Here's a little side note to that night. Serena and I pulled up to the premiere. It was crazy. I mean, Head Crack was hosting it. The mayor, I feel like me and the mayor see each other weekly at this point now with us being at the same event. So it's kind of dope to see that. But the city of Atlanta pulled up. There were actors, actresses, entertainers, rappers. Everybody was in the building. And so we all walked the red carpet. And I also had a question asked to me from that same lady that was the host of The Morning Hustle. And it was, so here's the thing. I get it. Like, people are going to be themselves in the interview. She basically asked me, well, this is a family podcast, so how do I even say this out loud? But she basically said, whose butt do we have to eat to get better wages or something of that nature?
Yeah, the wild, exactly.
I didn't even know what to say. I was like, oh my gosh.
But Renee handled it in just the most graceful way. She was like, you know what? She just spoke about her experience basically just being a team owner and stuff. She just didn't even acknowledge that question.
Who walks up to somebody that you are not familiar with and ask a question like that? I am just bad. I don't know what's happening in this world where you walk up to people in a professional setting. Now, even though this is a movie premiere, I get it. It's entertainment. That's not even entertaining. Why would you even want that to be a part of your questions that you put out anywhere, that you talk about eating people's butt? I don't understand what's going on here. I'm sure you're putting this nicely, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't understand why. See, you have a good one. I'd be like, are you okay? Like, do you want to re-ask that question in a better context than what you just asked it? Because I surely would have not. I would have like, I'm not answering that question. You got to do something else.
We couldn't do anything but just laugh.
I know Renee laughed because Renee, she tries to deflect.
When I get nervous, I laugh too, by the way. People might not know this, but when I get nervous or get in uncomfortable situations,
we both laughed just because everything was just very fast paced and it was moving really fast. So we didn't want to, I guess, take too long on one thing and not make it awkward. So it did not surprise me when I saw the clip. I was like, that's that same girl that asked you that question. I get it. The morning hustle is supposed to be funny and just kind of spicy or whatever.
How are you supposed to answer that? What answer would have sufficed for that question? I just don't understand.
Did you see the clip? I don't know if you guys finished the whole clip, but when Jonathan Majors, that's his name, right? Jonathan Majors. When Jonathan Majors came, she asked them like, "Oh, so it's who's a sexier man?" He was like, "What kind of question is that?" So it seemed like she was getting flack from different people on the questions that she was asking, and I wasn't surprised.
If you think about it, did she actually do exactly what she was there to do?
That reminds me of a Wendy Williams type situation. Those are like Wendy Williams type questions where Wendy would ask questions, you'd be like, how is somebody supposed to answer that? Like,
So listen, she might have shouts to the Morning Hustle because honestly, too, the whole Morning Hustle crew has came to the Atlanta Dream games before, so they're friends of the team and all.
Oh well, I take back everything I said. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Welcome.
But listen, it's no shade, honestly. It's just the fact that we're just talking about what happened at the premiere. I mean, this is Atlanta. We talk about all the things that happened in Atlanta. We're based here. Me and Serena were at the premiere, so we were live and we're just hitting on it. But
to her defense, just real quick, she did a video resurfaced of like, I think it was like a year or two ago when she was talking about Michael B. Jordan. She was saying, she was talking to somebody else, and the other person actually was saying that they think that he was corny and whatever, but she actually said like, no, we didn't think that. I don't know verbatim what she said, but she said something along the lines of, we didn't used to call him corny. It was more so we used to make fun of him because his name was Michael Jordan, and that was just a thing, like, oh, his name is Michael Jordan. That's a famous name, so people would kind of make fun of him for that. Well, I don't know why I make fun of for anything, but that was the thing that she claimed that she make fun of him for. But yeah, the video went viral. I mean, I think that Michael B. Jordan had the best revenge. If I was to face a bully and I was at his level of success, I would have done the same exact thing. Like, oh yeah, the ugly girl, huh? Yeah, the corny girl or whatever, But I think that he handled that so perfectly.
I loved it. I love the way he handled it. It was perfect. She was reasonably uncomfortable, and it was wonderful.
So moving on now into sports news. Okay, so Charles Barkley recently was on the First Take. Him and Stephen A. went head to head for a straight half hour. They didn't even have commercials on First Take when Charles Barkley pulled up there. And that's kind of crazy too, to have, when I pull up, no commercials. Shouts to Charles Barkley. But the conversation came up that Charles Barkley said, if you're making 70 million plus a year, or you're making all this money, you lose your right to complain. Now, this conversation, the backstory is load management is becoming a big conversation in sports about how players are sitting out certain games for their health. That's what load management is supposed to mean. And then now the fan aspect of, well, a fan could come and have wanted to see you play, and that's the only game they got to come to. They spent all their money, and the player's not playing. Well, Charles Barkley, I want to simplify the conversation to what Charles Barkley said, where he basically said, if you're making a certain level of money, you lose the right to complain. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on that.
I personally think any job that they're paying you money for, that you've signed a contract to do, is no matter what, how much it is, you should be doing the best job possible.
And you know what? It's funny you say that, Snook, because Dan Le Batard had mentioned on his show about how, the younger generation have a different relationship with work. See, your relationship with work is that if somebody's paying me, I'm going to do the best that I can. I think that that's not necessarily the case anymore per se, because it's bringing to the discussion of, Charles Barkley was saying that we're working these jobs, but they're paying us X amount of money.
He said 70 million. He said you can't play basketball for 3 or 4 days out of the week if you're getting paid up to $70 million.
I would just like to bring this back around to the WNBA, because y'all can't play a season and you don't go overseas. You don't go overseas. You can't play a whole season and you don't go overseas. So your season eventually ends. You eventually get your rest, or supposed to be getting your rest. Some people recovering and doing all that stuff and getting in the gym and getting bigger. You try to tell me you can't last a season for $70 million? A season. And how long is the NBA season?
82 games. I'm glad you brought that up. Because Steve Kerr said maybe make it 72 games.
If that's what you got to do, I just don't understand how. See, and this is where it gets me, because they say the girls shouldn't complain because they got to go overseas to make their money and da-da-da. So you're paying them money to stay here in their season and they still can't play? And I would like to say that Michael Jordan actually said this 20 years ago. 20 years ago, he made a statement and said, in 20 years, people will not play an entire season. He made the statement. He said it. He said this was going to happen because of the way that the management and that the players were going. That was where they were heading back then. And this man played almost half dead, probably had to get IV and carried him to the back. And he still played a whole season because he knew people packed those stands to see him play.
We have to look at it. They're a little softer now than they were back in the day.
I don't know. I'm on the other side of it a little bit. I think that I don't know. I think that you do have a right to complain, even if you are making, I think they said the average salary in the NBA is 10 million, right? And while I understand that that is a lot of money, compared to a lot of other professions, I don't know what it's like to be a professional athlete. I mean, Renee does. And I mean, Renee can probably attest to that. Yeah, there are days where you definitely don't feel like doing this or doing that or getting up. And I don't know if maybe a $70 million, salary would change that.
I got you. I feel you. You're right. You got a right to complain. Then you know what you should do? You should go ahead and let the fans know that they're not playing so that they don't spend their money on a ticket.
Well, they do let them know, but it's only like 24 hours before the game. So you've already bought your ticket by then.
But see, load management should mean if you know during this time of the year, right before the playoffs, right before March Madness, all this craziness going on, you need to schedule this.
Oh, so you want a full out...
Yes.
That's interesting. You want them to plan ahead their load management schedule in case if somebody wants to buy a ticket next week. You got to be like, LeBron's going to be out on Tuesday next week.
We know that sometimes before. We know that before on his injury schedule.
I don't know if I've ever heard that. And listen, Kobe Bryant in 2019 talked about this, and he said, you've got a lot of people paying their hard-earned money to watch you perform. It's your job to be in shape. It's your job to perform at that level every single night. As a competitor, I'm not ducking nothing. And Anthony Edwards, who plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves, said, all these guys sitting, resting, just play, man. I don't like all the sitting, missing games and stuff. These people might have enough money to come to one game all season, and that might be the game they come to, and you're sitting out. So it's interesting because it's like, because Serena said it, I've been a pro athlete for 11 years. And so the WNBA now has 40 games in their WNBA season, 20 home, 20 away. And then overseas, I would venture to say that we at least play another extra 30 to 40 games, making it almost equivalent to an NBA season per se altogether. Ours is just split up into WNBA and overseas. I've definitely had so many days. So just so everyone knows, I didn't miss one game at UConn. The whole time I was at UConn, I didn't miss any games. I started every single game of my career at UConn. And then when I was in the pros, I got injured one time. I still knock on wood whenever I talk about injuries because injuries is nothing but a blessing. So let me first start by saying, if you're injured, of course you have to sit out. We're acknowledging the fact that, of course, if you're injured and can't play, you can't play. Because at one point in time, I tore 3 ligaments in my ankle. I literally could not play. But to the point of what Kobe was talking about, I probably came back too soon from my ankle injury because I was playing with a full-on cast on my ankle. When I go back and look at the footage of when I was playing at that time, my limp was so distinct that it looked like a joke. It almost looked like I was playing around because I was limping so bad. So I think that if I was a professional athlete at this time during this conversation, I would be under the mindset of I'm a play, because I'm one of the players that I'm always on the court. I'm Jamal Crawford-esque in a sense of I just want to play. I just want to hoop. But I also understand too that the players aren't the ones making the decision to sit out. So I think that's a part that's getting lost in the conversation. I'm finding out that the trainers are the ones that tell the players you have to sit out this game or that game. But if it were me, and it's not me, but I'm saying if it were me right now and making that level of money, I don't even think changes my mindset. That's another thing. We kind of get caught up in the money of, oh, you're getting paid $70 million a year. I wasn't getting paid that. Shoot, I was making $100,000 a year, and I felt obligated to still play as many games as I could.
And that's what Charles Barkley said too. He said when he came into the league, the average salary was $200,000, and they were like what you said, like play or die. It was no other alternative. They played no matter what. So maybe it's a question: is the more money just kind of spoiling people a little?
No, it's not the money. If she's saying that the management is the one making decisions, the management should have enough respect. They know when they're going to sit people out. They know what games they want certain people in. They know what games they're going to let go. It's a strategy. They're not just deciding, unless the person is hurt and they're like, okay, well, they're kind of shaky. Let's keep them out because we need them for the next game. I understand if a person's on they're injured and they're like, okay, let's rest them this game because they have injury. They're already flagged as having an injury.
But like Renee was saying, that when they got paid less, she would well, I'm still going to play. So I'm saying now that players are getting paid more, are they being more empowered maybe to say no because they have more money?
I'm going to connect both of you guys because somebody I saw on the internet said that this sounds like a problem for Adam Silver. And I thought that was interesting. But then when you start to unravel it, that the trainers are the ones making the decision, and that Adam Silver has also put an emphasis on player health because there were a lot of different injuries and different things of that nature. The question starts to become, well, maybe did we take it a little bit too far for player health? And then also to Cole's point, it is kind of interesting because Klay Thompson, who is now starting to play incredible, I'm so happy for him. I'm cheering for this guy. He had back-to-back tough injuries, and he just always seemed like he was trying to get back to that guy he was before the injuries. He recently started playing in back-to-back games and different things of that nature. And so when you think about it, it almost is planned. Paul George is another one that he's on a minutes restriction because of his injuries. Well, I think you could assume that you could announce a month from now that if we know a player is recently coming back from injuries, he's not going to be on that back-to-back. We know that. I know that any player coming back from a very tough, long injury, especially an Achilles injury, we can almost assume that for at least half of the season, he's not going to play in back-to-back games. So you probably could get ahead of some of those news on the obvious ones. We know that everybody's not obvious. There are some day-to-day ones and different things of that nature. But I do think that there is the same way that content creators create content calendars and people create schedules and coaches create schedules, trainers create schedules too on journeys to get back healthy, minutes restrictions. They don't just make those numbers up. There is a method. And so maybe sharing that information ahead of time. Now, I don't know how that does for the competitive edge if a team knows they don't have to plan for that player or not. Listen, I'm just saying, but I do understand that maybe there's a meet in the middle because right now load management is being talked about more and more. It's happening more and more. It's being talked about more and more. So with the CBA coming up, bigger contracts coming up, like when you got to remember a new CBA agreement, new TV deals, more money. What's going to happen when players start making even more money? The All-Star game, we already see what's happening. Nobody wants to be involved because what does it do for you, honestly? Or I don't know if that's why the players aren't interested, but the more money players are making, I don't think it's going to resolve the problem. So
the part that's actually an upsetting part of it is not the fact that the player is not playing. It's the fact that the player's not playing, and then you see him jumping up and down on the sideline, cheering on their team. So you know they're not injured because they run up and down the sidelines and they do.
Them players are probably great to run and jump, but sliding, cutting, guarding the fastest.
No, we're not talking about the ones that.
world.
No, we're talking about the ones that are literally. We know that they're just resting. It's not an injury type thing. We know that they're resting, and when they say, "Oh, he's not playing tonight," and he's got on a fly suit hat, and then as soon as somebody dunks it, you see them up and down and jumping up and smacking each other's head, or yo, and run up. I mean, come on, at least act like. I would just please act like you hurt. At this point, I would just prefer you just to sit there and act like you. You can't do that. Now, I didn't pay my money.
Cole said, look, if you want load management, you better act like the part, because I don't want to go to the game and you not playing and I see you doing all the things I wanted to see you doing on the court. Well, there's that on load management, to be continued, because this is a topic that's being discussed at every turn in the NBA. And before I let y'all go, I wanted to talk about name, image, and likeness right quick, because Miami women's basketball has been placed on a 1-year probation for violations in the recruitment of Haley and Hannah Cavender. Now, the NCAA found that head coach Katie Meyer facilitated impermissible contact between a booster and the players. This is big, y'all. This is the first big ruling in name, image, and likeness when it comes to college sports. I'm telling you right now, keep an eye on that. They're trying to set the tone. Also, be sure to tap in tomorrow where I have a conversation with Big Play Slay, #1 defense in the NFL. You know the man, you know the vibes. I'll catch y'all next week where it's a generational thing.